to order here. First item of business is the minutes from June the 25th. It's been a month almost.
Yeah, a long time. Yeah, let's get this.
Okay, that's taken care of, accepted as presented here. First item of business is the minutes from. Didn't echo?
Yeah.
Okay, next item, Washington County I voted sticker contest.
We have delivered all the ballot boxes and forms to all of the libraries, the extension center, the extension office. And we had to run more forms back up to the table library yesterday. So fingers crossed, we get a significant amount of contacts, candidates in. So yeah. So
That'll be
that's
the
going
beginning.
well. Yes,
That's great.
Future times, it'll be even more.
yeah.
Super, okay. Item number 3, 2024 general election, early vote sites. Look at sheets here.
The last time we looked at this, Jim had asked if we could look about Springdale Public Library extending that week, and they have the availability for us, and we're more than happy to extend it for 2 more days. So this would be everything I think we've talked about, including those extra 2 days at the Springdale Public Library, if the commission is ready to vote on the early vote sites and election day sites. The only one I have still left blank is the Springdale Civic Center that Friday. We do have time to add to it if it is available. But right now we would just plan on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at the Springdale Civic Center. So we get closer to the election.
Okay, well, there's not really any reason to vote on it at this point, right?
On this,
On what you presented, if you're gonna add that on
so
closer.
we can vote on this as is right now, and we can go ahead and start getting it posted. We can go ahead and start getting the information out. The law does allow us to add additional early vote sites and dates and times before we publish. We don't publish until like 21 days before the election. So that gives us a little bit more time for just that 1 day for the Civic Center if they have availability to us. But
So you would like
otherwise,
to go ahead and vote on
that's
it now.
up to the commission, but it would allow us to go ahead and start.
Getting it out there.
Getting
Places
information
and
out there.
people
Yeah.
think about it.
Okay,
So, and we could always make corrections if need be, but I think this is a pretty good representation of polling places across the county with significant additions of dates. So early voting.
I mean, if it's fine, maybe I'll make a motion to approve the early vote and election day vote centers as presented.
And I'll second.
all right, all in favor? Aye. All right,
And I'll just need signatures on one of these, and that way I can,
Want to do?
yeah, just one of these forms.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got one here, yeah.
And nothing changed for election day, that's all the same. This notice still will reflect that Awakening Church and Lincoln Masonic Lodge are closed because
Oh,
they were
okay.
open
Yeah,
in 2022. So yeah.
do you put some noticeable, like red type or something to say that those are closed so people will, if people look at the document, they'll
So-
see it.
So this document is the one that I will file, then I will create something that's more like, hey, this is early vote
Okay.
sites, this is
Okay.
election day sites, and we will make note of that. And then, of course, at those polling locations, we post notice,
Right.
but both of those sites, the new site is right next door.
Oh,
So
yeah.
in Lincoln, it's
Okay.
just across the street,
Right.
and then at Awakening, it's just across the
Can't miss it.
driveway. Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty easy for the voters to find a new location.
Super. All right. Election day signs.
And that was signed with this too.
Oh,
Like I
that's
said, that,
okay.
yeah, we'll have 42 sites. We'll have 42 sites open, which is exactly what we had for the primary.
Okay. Super. Okay,
Are we able to change that to, later on if there's a need?
Yes, we have 60 days to change that, and so that would be, I think it's like the first week of September, like September 6th or something like that. If we needed to add a site, or if we needed.
That's the, vote, the early vote and the.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah,
That's what
But
I was
this-
wondering.
yes.
We were talking early vote. And, I wasn't sure if we were also talking about, election day side.
yes, our deadline to make any changes would be September the 6th. Now, we can always make changes in case of an emergency, and we can always add after September 6th.
Something.
Is
Close.
the Friday after Labor Day.
Oh, okay, Labor Day is early.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions on that, gentlemen?
No, good job, everybody getting the sites.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
thanks.
a huge effort. All right, election preparation update, Jennifer.
Okay, so the last time we were in here, we talked a little bit about how we wanted candidate names to appear on the ballot, specifically the presidential candidates. And so on the ballot that you have for, I think it's Boston, you'll see there's 3 options, those first 3 candidate names. One shows with it just to the side. Under president, that candidate 1, it'll show candidate 1 dash president, and then running mate, and it would say dash vice president, and then the party underneath. The second one shows as if it were abbreviated. And then the third one shows, if we just did it in a smaller font underneath with the party. And then the fourth one shows if we didn't make any notation of president, vice president, but we do have to include the party. So the commission was kind of wanted to see.
Some different options.
Different options.
Yeah, so these first 4 would be our options, basically, of what we would do
The first 4, but with different names.
with different names. Yeah, so basically, if you liked it to the side, if you liked it abbreviated, if you liked it just underneath, or if you didn't want to put it in there at all. And we're just talking about president and vice president, just like that title.
Feel like it's a little hard, it's not an apples to apples comparison,
Yeah, this is.
it's a little. So I feel like that's what's going on.
Let me, while you think on that, let me ask a question. Above where it has US president, US vice president. Are those in 2 separate fonts or 2 separate sizes? Because president looks slightly smaller than vice president.
No, they're the same.
Are they?
I think so.
See.
I just wanna make
Maybe
sure
it's
it
just
wasn't on
visual,
Boston.
but,
So I changed the font,
okay.
and so that may be what's throwing you. Usually it's
Ah.
an Arial.
Yeah, I was gonna
And so
say.
I changed the
This is
font,
the Arial.
and part of the reason that we did that is because the issues are so big, and Times Roman is a smaller font. So that may be what's throwing you.
It might be, yeah. I was just gonna suggest maybe if there is a visual trick there, maybe make US president,
Larger.
larger.
So this would be what it would look like on the express vote. These ballots, remember, only go to absentee voters.
Oh, right, yeah.
So this would, so around, let's say 2,000 voters will see this ballot.
Yeah.
Right.
The biggest majority of our
Yeah.
voters will see this ballot. And when you look at it here, it doesn't have that visual that I think
Right,
you're
exactly.
seeing.
No, this looks identical.
I agree, this is the one to look at more so, I mean, both, but you're
Right,
right.
but
it's
yeah.
gonna affect more people.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I don't like the second one that's abbreviated. I don't like the abbreviated.
I don't know.
phrase, and
but it's probably necessary on this because of the 4 columns.
Well, I think these are just our options,
These
right?
are our options. So I think.
We have to select one of these 4, basically.
Yes, and what we've done, the 4th one, where it says candidate 4,
Mhm.
Oh,
we
it's
did
passed.
that in 2020.
Got it.
We did the other ones every other year.
Oh.
So we've shown a lot of consistency.
Uh-huh.
In 2020, we went to just the three lines, basically. It was
Yeah.
because we had 13 candidates.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yeah.
the way, if we get more than 13 and we make this any bigger, the rest of the candidates flow to another
Right.
column. So it wasn't just about them all fitting in one column. We would have 10 candidates on one column and then the 3 candidates on the other.
You don't.
And that was why we pulled out putting president and vice president from underneath the names.
Okay, I've got a question here. It looks like that was truncated in some way at the under.
That candidate number
9.
10. So these are screenshots that are created in the
Oh,
program,
okay.
not the actual,
Okay,
not what the actual screen looks like.
Gotcha.
And it depends on how big she has it. It's this right here. See how candidate 10, 11, 12, 13 aren't on there. And
Okay.
that's something we'll create
That's gonna
when we do this.
visual was too
Yeah.
big.
Gotcha.
I like these 2. Either one of those. I don't like that.
Let's do a number. 1, 2,
So-
3, 4.
Yeah, but I will say this numbering is different than this.
Oh.
numbering.
It is, and I don't know,
But yeah, I
did it this morning, I'm sorry if it doesn't work.
no, I'll get it. I do 1 or 4. I
So-
mean, I think those to me are the best.
Mine with 1 is that vice president falls, it does, so on the express vote ballot, vice president fits.
Mhm.
But when you look at the paper ballot, you'll see vice president.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Falls under. We went to 4 columns because our hope is we have a single sheet ballot.
Right.
And the 4 column allows us to just have a single sheet ballot.
I mean,
Really what we need if we can,
Yeah.
if we can figure out a way to do it.
I think it's fair to fall into another column, but again, I do think the vast majority of voters.
Yeah.
They are,
express
yes.
votes, so I consider the paper copy, but I feel like express votes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That
Right.
most people, the vast majority
Right.
can vote on.
And it's not like it's gonna confuse them. It's just sort of a visual, it has a nicer appearance.
Yeah. I don't know, I just don't like Prez abbreviated
Yeah.
like that.
If you're gonna do that, make it PREZ.
I think the second line there where you are showing that it's the US president, the US vice
Yeah,
president
Right, vote for
Is-
one.
is enough to describe what the offices are. And just to put the names after that with party would be, I think, what is that number? This one?
It's,
It's without the prez and the VP.
yeah, the
I like this one
Independent.
without the prez and the VP.
So the,
Just the names highlighted and the
Mhm.
voting party beneath.
which that would be candidate number 4, essentially,
Or
on the
is it,
paper ballot.
but number 3 on the other one?
Yes.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't really care all that much, other than I just don't like the abbreviated.
Yeah,
I don't.
I'm with you.
So, yeah.
I think that, I just don't think we need any more than,
Mhm.
we got a description for US Congress up here. And Caitlin Draper is not, doesn't have a congressperson to be or any other title, you know, and I'm not sure. I guess you can put Congressman Steve Womack, but I'm not sure that you have to put.
Well, don't they,
He
that's the way
That's
they
not-
file, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you guys are leaning then to that, just like the candidate name and then party with no, office
I
title.
think-
Yeah.
How did they, and that just comes to us, the candidate name, how they file.
Right,
Uh-huh.
It's whatever they put in.
Whatever, yeah.
That's what's gonna go there.
And
Yeah.
from what I can tell, the presidential candidates, I've never seen one file with an office in front of their name.
Yeah.
So they just come to us as,
Yeah.
when Biden ran, it was Joseph Biden,
Yeah,
Donald Trump, like he didn't, there
Well,
was nothing in front of them.
those are supplied from the SOS, right?
They are.
So we don't really have an idea of what they actually came with.
Well, we know from the primary what, Biden and Trump's names look like, and neither one of them had an office in front of them. And even when Governor DeSantis filed, he didn't file as Governor DeSantis, he just filed with his name. So it appears that they just filed as names with no offices.
Well,
in
that's
front of
gonna
it.
save
For
you,
presidents.
if we did end up with 17, that would save you some space,
It
right?
will, and it makes the box not look so crowded when you're looking at the paper.
This was only a question as to the president. right?
Yes, only
It
the
wa- it
president.
wasn't even, it wasn't discussing any of the.
No,
presidents. It
none
was
of
only
the,
that president.
yes, yeah,
Because.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fine.
okay,
Let's do it.
so we'll do that.
Number
The-
3.
yeah.
Or number 4 on the.
Right.
On the
Where
paper.
it says candidate.
3
It's
on.
really here,
Yeah.
On that one.
yeah, which,
Okay.
that was one of the ones you selected, wasn't
Yeah, I just didn't. want
So the other thing we were looking at on the ballot is, if you stay looking at the Boston paper ballot, you'll see where, we have the nonpartisan judicial general election runoff. When we went to a 4-column, this Supreme Court justice all fit on one line, but when we got to Arkansas Supreme Court Justice Karen Baker, because that's how she had filed, the justice dropped down below, so what we did was for the Supreme Court, hers, we made them both look justice in front of them, so
Oh, yeah.
that was,
good.
that was the
That's
change
fine.
Yeah.
we made. And then, let's see. On the Town one, like I think is this last one that you have. Now, this is because Lacey actually will be creating the ballots for us this year, so this is good practice for Lacey.
Yeah.
Going in to create the ballots for us. The city of Town is having a special election. They have filed all the paperwork with
On
us. They
time?
have all of the language. We are good to go for the city of Town.
Okay,
One of the things, though, as we're laying out this ballot that we were struggling with is there are 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 6 basically things that go on the ballot. On this ballot, we have moved the nonpartisan judicial general election runoff to the back of the ballot. Because if we left it on the front of the ballot, then issue parks and recreational improvement bonds floated to the back of the ballot all by itself. Which I didn't want to break up, like, I felt like for the city, for everyone to be able to fully visualize what they're voting on for the city. Moving that race to the back of the ballot made sense. So that was one of the things that we are, contemplating, working on.
I,
So this,
I think it looks okay.
this is where the special election description begins,
Begins,
Yep.
and these are all special election items,
Part of the same.
and then these are special election items.
These are the issues, the constitutional issues.
Okay, is that special election? That's not special election. Oh,
No.
I get, okay, now,
And Lacey, if you want to make a note on that ballot,
Mhm.
we could actually maybe add a header above that issue number 1 that says constitutional amendments or
Oh,
state
yes.
Oh,
something.
yeah, good.
yes,
Now-
something separate.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the darker font. too.
yeah, and we
Yeah.
will. This is our printer.
Yeah, yeah.
It's horrible. But
That kind of the line you're talking about,
yes, we can add a header in here that says
Yeah.
constitutional amendment,
yeah.
to fully separate that
That's-
out.
Cool.
Do we know, on these issues, if they're all still,
So we have only put the issues on there that Yeah,
Those three are
those
probably gonna be
three.
the only ones.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and if it stays like this, then we should only have a single page ballot, which is great.
yeah.
So just have it. And we might not have 13 running mates. I
Oh.
looked back in 2016, I think there were only 5 people who
Mm.
filed, that varies. So that would free up a little bit more space too, but it's just kind of what we're, kind of working through what potential problems we might see on the
Right.
ballot. So that way, when we do get final names and we present ballots for you to approve, you kind of look at that part of it. Able to easily approve this without having to make changes.
Could you, bold the continued on back in red?
We can,
Is that gonna cause problems?
well, I cannot get my printer for the BOD to
Oh.
print it in red. But
Oh.
I'll look, it shows it's a color printer, but I have yet to get it to print in color.
Oh, boy.
But we can bold that and make it a little bit bigger
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, cause it's, I mean, you can see it, but it's sort of, it would be easy to miss.
I think it has to do too with our copier,
Oh, okay,
more so than
Okay.
it has to do with.
Yeah.
the color. We actually have that.
okay, the electronic ballots are good on that.
Yes, so on the electronic ballots, one of the things, all the presidential names will appear on one screen as opposed to in 2020 when they appeared on 2 screens. So that has been fixed, so we
Good.
will not have that issue. And we'll, look around kind of and make sure that all of those screens, look properly for that. So, and if you'll notice, the issues kind of become one big column. So, yeah. And we'll go in and when we create what this actually looks like, you'll be able to see the whole text
Okay,
of the different issues.
yeah, that's what I was wondering, because this is
Yeah,
front
it
page
is.
too.
That just has to do with how we pulled it up on the screen when we made the PDFs.
We're good.
This is a tough process. You guys work hard to get it done.
Mhm.
Well,
We appreciate it.
I think for our voters, both the ones that vote absentee and, on the express votes, the goal is to make sure that it's easy to read.
Mhm.
There's, no miscommunication between what they're looking at and what they're voting on.
Okay. You've got something here on abbreviated names on reports and results.
I think,
folks.
yes, we had talked about that briefly. We will go in and, like, for instance, all the JPs will be shortened to on the
Oh,
reports,
Yeah,
JP,
good.
the last name if they.
Yeah,
file
there's no
with
reason that
Justice.
we've got to do that
Yeah.
on there.
So,
Okay, super. All right, what else, John? Anything on those?
No, not really.
All right. Election needs, ballot stock.
okay, this is me spending money. And I'm like, oh, when I added all of these numbers up, I was like, oh goodness. So this is our current budget right now. If you look at the top of it, those salaries where it shows that it's in parentheses, that is negative, but we anticipated that because some of our staff now is classified as full-time rather than part-time. And we never built money into the full-time salary line, so this is really good. We're not like in the hole and we have enough money, just, we're just, kind of leaving it as it is, in the election part of it. And then the rest of it is the money we have to spend, like general supplies, small equipment, and all of that. So we're doing good, with all of the money that we currently have, but I'm now going to need to spend significant amount of money for the general election. So on the very last page, you'll see the different items that I do need to purchase for the general election. And I've also got a little spreadsheet on how I came to some of these numbers.
Okay.
The first item is for equipment for repairs. This includes the wheels for the DS200 we're changing out those. The ones we have right now makes it a little bit easier for them to tip over, and we've actually had a DS200 tip over twice on our poll workers who are doing deliveries.
Yeah.
So of course, AS&S can sell us some new, better
Of
wheels
course.
that they're putting on equipment now. This will allow us to complete that process, and also some of the little blocks we have for charging our tablets no longer want to charge, and so it's just a little bit of equipment repair, and so that's the estimate that I received for that.
Okay.
We also have built money into our budget to order more express boats. This would order 3 more express boats for us. And we've been ordering them without the stands, without that big kiosk, because that kiosk itself is like $1,000. And we can just order them without it. And so they kind of look like that. You're fine, I'm sorry. They look like that, but we can also order a stand for it to go in that's around $200 that we can place at the polling locations if we wanted to do that. Otherwise, they sit on a table and then you still have to put a privacy screen around them. But we did find stands for them that we could order as well. So that's just a thought on that. So 3 express boats would cost us close to $11,000. We have to purchase cases for them, so that would $750 would be the cost of the case. And then if we ordered 3 of those stands for it to sit on, those are about $200 a piece. We are, I think, possibly short 4 express boat poll books. That cost would be close to $4,000 for 4 more express poll books. And that would be kind of equipment costs that we needed, but we did build into our budget for this year. And then, which costs more than the express boats, the ballot stock we need to order is about $14,000 worth of ballot stock. But that gives us, when I look at ballot stock and how I order it based on how many boxes, which I need to send to the polling location. I can't just order just a flat number to match the number of voters we have, because you don't know where they're gonna vote. You don't know if all the ballot stock gonna work. So, this would order as 140,000 pieces of ballot stock. For the election, we have about 40,000 pieces of ballot stock right now. But that ballot stock would be able to be used for the runoff elections, and then of course for next year's elections too. So it's not going to go to waste. Stylus, this would order us 50,000 stylus at $10,000 and or close to $11,000 too. And then all of our computers in our office are aged 2017, except one, and I think it's 2020, and they're really slow.
Oh, yeah.
So
Gotta upgrade those. That's
Yeah.
a long time.
I sent an email to IT and asked, how old are our computers? Because everyone's been
Yeah.
complaining
Yeah,
that our computers are slow, and they're slow to turn on, but they're slow. And when they came back at 2017, I was like, I
Wow.
think maybe we do need new.
Yeah.
it affects your efficiency. You
Yeah.
can't do things nearly as
Yeah.
quickly.
Well, how did that CrowdStrike, whatever you want to call it, how did that affect y'all?
It did.
It didn't,
Yeah,
okay.
our emails.
They're Windows computers though,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I did see that their Arizona said that it did impact their computers or their tablets that they use for check-in.
Ooh.
They didn't really say, but it only impacted them in a couple of counties. So I don't know if that
The
truly.
key counties, right?
Okay.
So I don't know.
Counts in Arizona.
So I don't know,
Oh, my
I
goodness.
don't know for sure how widespread that was, but that
Yeah.
is what they blamed it on.
Okay,
So,
well,
and
I was just thinking, I mean, I guess the county is strictly Windows computers, right? So you really need to stick with the Windows.
we have to, whatever IT, this is what,
Okay, yeah.
whatever IT orders for us is
Okay.
what we get. So
Okay.
this was the quote to replace 5 computers in our
Here's five.
office. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, the I voted stickers. So which brings a grand total to close to $50,000.
This is all budgeted for, right?
I have $76,000 in those 2 line items to purchase everything, so it leaves us roughly 27,000 for anything else that might come up. I don't want to just spend it down to nothing because you
Right,
don't know, we're still early in the election cycle. I don't know what might come up, what we might need
yeah.
We're on calendar year on, we
in
start covering.
January. So that is what I am proposing and asking for the commission to spend for the general election.
Fine to me, I'd make a motion to approve spending that money.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded to approve the presentation monies that Jennifer needs. All in favor?
Aye.
Go forth and spend.
Oh, it makes me nervous. I started adding those up and I was like, oh gosh.
You know, you just can't,
I
you
mean,
gotta have it.
you do. I mean, we have to have ballot stock.
Yeah.
We have to have, and if this is gonna be our biggest voter turnout we ever have, we have to have enough equipment in the field,
Yeah.
enough tablets, enough
Yeah.
all of those different things. Yeah,
Plus making sure that nothing goes down where
right.
you need something extra.
And this absolutely gives us plenty of equipment that if something, decides to not work, we have extra and we're not just, like, I'm sorry, this is all we have.
Stand in line.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, super. Well, you've got one more set of things here. These must go in other business.
They do. I went to Little Rock on Thursday. The SBEC has kind of put together like a little task force and have asked little coordinators to come, and we've had 2 meetings so far. And this was one of the things that when we went to Little Rock on Thursday, that they talked about kind of a code of conduct for poll workers. And they really liked this idea. They got it from North Dakota. And I would suspect that probably this will be something we will definitely see in 20 going forward. They wouldn't be able to implement it as a requirement for this election, but there were some things in it that I thought were maybe important reminders for our poll workers. They do have to take an oath before every election, which that oath part is part of what they do sign. But as like a reminder, don't be talking about politics at the polling location. Don't, treat voters differently based on any of those other things, that you're taking an oath. And basically just as a reminder before they sign up to be paid, before they sign their oath of election, like, hey, these are the things we're expecting of you as poll workers at the polls on election day. But before I added this to our pay sheet, I wanted to get the commission's approval and thoughts on it.
No, I think it's great. I think also just emphasizing the poll workers, same thing that applies to us. It's not about us personally. We're representatives, of these positions.
Yeah.
You're serving members of the public who have a right to be there and to vote. And that just means to be cognizant of kind of the position you hold.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's good to keep that in mind, that even if there's minor little things, you have to do and look at and all of that, to keep the broader picture in mind.
What is
What this tries to do.
What does this change? What do we do now?
So what we do now is we cover all of this in poll worker training. but the big poll worker training, we did back in February. So we'll bring in supervisors before the general election, and our poll workers will work early vote and of course election day. So this is basically a written reminder of, hey, remember all that training that we did in April? And when I talked to you about making sure that we're doing the proper procedures, we're following, the laws. It's just kind of a basic reminder about those things.
So that's from the state board's new.
This was something that we talked about. It was something that they really liked. And so
As presented here.
as presented here, I thought the one thing we get feedback from other poll workers a lot of times is when you're in that situation and you're working and like there's no voters in there, sometimes there is a tendency to want to talk politics because that's what
Right.
we're doing. But we need a reminder that this is not the time and the place to talk politics, that we need to keep all of those things to ourselves, that we're here basically making sure that our voters come in and can vote. And
Because people keep talking about it when one voter comes in.
yeah, and
That is what I have personally observed numerous
Exactly.
days of,
yeah,
and it's just because people get caught up talking about it when you start talking.
yeah.
So you're right, yeah, you're right.
So it's kind of like a reminder at the beginning of the day, hey,
Yeah.
listen, please don't, and this, we want you to read this, to sign off and say, yep, I get it, not gonna do that. So I see it more as a reminder of the different things that we've done.
Is this then become a prerequisite to being able to be a poll worker? You have to sign this?
So they do have to sign the oath. There is maybe that assumption that this would be a prerequisite to becoming a poll worker. You have to, meet the requirements of being a registered voter, not being a paid, employee of a local party, all of those kind of things. So this would just be reaffirming that, hey, I'm also going to take training, which they are required to do. And I'm going to avoid doing these things.
I have to think about this. I'm not quite as sure as Max is.
Aren't these just legal requirements anyway? I mean, I will abide by all the laws or rules and instructions in the election process and championing the election process, not an outcome.
Let's
I will
put another
not
word there.
express- Yeah, no. I will not express my personal political opinions to other election workers, voters, election observers while present in a poll implication, like election hearing, essentially. So to me, these are just requirements to serve as a poll worker anyway.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of individual poll workers who might have been a poll worker for a while and, or maybe they're new, I don't know, but, and they're looking at something that now they're having to sign, I will not, I will abide by, and so on and so forth. Even though before they've been, it's been not a written requirement, but a strong suggestion that they don't do these things.
Boy, I sure want every poll worker who we hire to abide by every one of these things. That's my opinion on it. I don't want poll workers
Max,
and
I do
talking
too.
politics.
Max, I do too. I'm concerned about how the poll workers might feel about this, and I just have to think about it, how they might feel about when people, a lot of people are hesitant to put their name down and sign off on something. When does this become something that has a penalty of law attached to it?
I mean, when they pass a statute that addresses it.
I know.
So are they signing this anyway and you've just added these two?
So no, the whole above the oath of office
It's all new.
is all new. And like I said, I know the election, the SBEC liked this. I saw it as a way, as a reminder, please don't talk about these things. But I also, Jim, what you're talking about, I hesitated to, I've got poll workers who have been doing this for years and now are they saying, am I in trouble?
Yeah,
Do you not trust me?
I'm asking,
Kind of.
is
I
this to
can
correct
understand.
something that has been going on? And apparently, by what you said, it is.
I think it's both. I think it's just a reminder of
I,
the rules and the position that everyone holds, but I
Yeah.
do think
Yeah.
those bolded, I've seen it happen when I've been
Yeah.
at polls many times of. Cause that's what people do, they talk politics when no voters are around especially, but then it spills over when one voter comes in and they're over there, you know, and then another comes in and they trickle over. It's just human nature.
It is, and
Do you
I,
think this stops that from happening?
I think it reminds them of it, yeah. I think when they read this, then yeah, I think it
Do you
does
think
change.
it does? Do you think it stops?
I think if they, if you think this is gonna give poll workers pause signing this and that they will have to think about it or then yes, I think it's registering to them that, yeah, this is a reminder, these are requirements.
Well,
I think
let's-
so.
let's,
What is our requirement here? What is our responsibility? Are we gonna determine that we wanna either support this or not support it, or what are we doing?
so basically. Yes, we can determine whether we want to add this as part of what they are signing. And because I'm coming at it late in the game, probably if we had this before training, it would have just been part of the training materials. But because I'm not bringing all the poll workers back in before the general election, we'll only be bringing supervisors in. This was just kind of a written reminder, like when they're signing in, like, oh, yeah, I remember Jennifer was talking about that during training. It's completely optional. This is not required. It's not, required in the
But if
law.
we approve it, is it required then of the poll workers to sign it?
Yes, in the sense that they would be signing,
I know, I'm talking about this part of it.
right, if I leave it as this, they would be signing it in essence when they sign the oath.
Right.
Now, could I pull this completely out and treat it as a separate handout to poll workers to receive to look over? I could, but then I felt like that was just one more piece of paper that they're gonna have. At least this is, I'm paying them on this sheet. They have to sign this sheet.
I guess what I'm curious about is you want them to sign the oath for election officials.
They have to. That is a
That's-
requirement.
that's the
You
requirement,
must
but all
take this
this-
oath.
But all this other stuff above is based on what I would call discretion.
It is completely up to us if we wanted to include this as something they have to sign. It is something we need to reiterate
Yeah,
with our
sure,
poll workers,
sure.
that these are important points. The question is, how do I present the message basically?
Yeah.
And in my mind, this was every poll worker has just this piece of paper. So in my mind, that was an easy way to.
Well,
do it.
I guess I'm looking at it and I'm thinking they must sign the oath, however, can we compel them to practice the rest of this in their, I mean, anytime you compel somebody to a certain kind of behavior, there's no way that we can, monitor that to make sure that they are or are not following it.
Well, I think the supervisor can, and the other poll workers can.
What
If
if our,
everybody has signed this, then that allows the supervisor and other poll workers to say, hey, you just signed that. This is,
But I'm-
we've learned that training.
But I'm saying that they must sign the oath.
Yeah, under
That
state
they
law,
are not compelled to sign
that's
this.
not part of state law yet.
And so I'm not real comfortable giving poll workers the impression that if I sign this, I'm compelled to do everything on here.
What if you flip it?
Well, okay, so.
Maybe flip it. I mean, I haven't read through the whole thing, so forgive me if it, but my initial inclination is you want them to sign the oath,
They have to sign,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have to take the oath, that
right,
is part
and they
of it.
have to practice the discretion, which I would suggest is the upper portion of it.
Right, and
But at that point, I mean, because this says under the oath, I, the undersigned, do swear that I will perform, da, 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 da. And, it seems to me we're conflating two things that, may make the poll workers uncomfortable. And I mean, number 6 says, I have under oath declared that I will perform the duties, blah, blah, blah.
1, 2, and 6 are kind of repetitive to the oaths. With a quick read through here, 3 says, I will provide impartial treatment to all people with whom I interact during the course of my work as an election worker, will not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, gender, national origin, age, disability, or party affiliation. As a poll worker, I might say, what if someone perceives that I did not follow that and they file a complaint? What happens then?
I
They
mean, that's
have,
investigated,
not to
yeah,
us,
yeah.
but
they-
it
with the
has
state board.
been,
I know, but now I'm signing this right here. Have I signed away something? You know, so
I mean,
I
that's-
see what you're saying. Then, so,
I'm not ready
I mean, those
to
are
make this.
federal requirements, you know.
Yeah.
You can't discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, gender.
Now, I
national origin,
can-
age.
create this not part of their pay sheet, but something that they read beforehand. So it was just, like I said, just something that we had talked about. I know that the state board did like this, so I know that we'll see probably a
Yeah, yeah.
a future part of this, in the future, but I saw it as a reminder of please remember,
Right.
remember where we're at, and we have poll watchers who are there and could make reports about what happens at the polling location. Other, counties have been investigated for these types of instances, and we have been, we talk about this in poll worker training, we don't want to be at the, in an investigation, and these are the things that are gonna keep us from not being investigated.
It's also just a reminder to poll workers that, hey, elections and election officials and all of it are under
Why can't it
increased
be a
scrutiny.
separate reminder? Why does it
Yeah,
have to be
that's-
Part of what I signed.
Because
Well, what part of this, do you have a problem with the poll workers signing? What part of this do you not want poll workers to abide by?
Everything above the oath. No, I didn't, not abide by.
So-
That is a unfair question. To ask me what I want to not abide by.
Now, which part of this do you disagree that they should abide by
I
though?
don't disagree they should abide by anything. I disagree that they should have to sign that at this point.
I think what
It might change later, but right now, I'm not in favor of it.
what I see is when you sign this, you're agreeing to the whole thing, and that's not part of the oath.
That's not part of state law, correct, but there's nothing that says we can't go above and beyond state law to a proposal that the state board believes it is an effective proposal. I mean, I see no problem with any of this. I think all poll workers should abide by these things.
I don't think they should, not abide by them either. I think they should abide by them. So that's not a fair question, Max. Understand me, I'll say it one more time. I think.
I'd appreciate
Abide by-
I'd appreciate if you lowered your voice, Jim. Don't raise your voice to me, please, sir. Okay?
Okay.
Well, I will say I'm disappointed that the Washington County Election Commission refuses to ask poll workers to sign what is a pretty straightforward to me civic reminder of their positions as holding highly visible positions of public trust and conducting their business in a manner that reflects favorably the values of fairness, accessibility, accountability, effectiveness, and responsiveness. I don't think there's anything controversial.
Well,
In here,
let's,
if you guys don't want to require poll workers to sign it, that's fine, I support it, but so I guess I would make a motion to approve, having poll workers sign the entire oath and, these.
wait a minute, they already are required.
To sign the oath
To sign the
and
oath.
the prior statements as
Okay.
presented. I'd make a motion to approve, having poll workers sign. Stop.
And out of fairness, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to incorporate the whole thing for people to sign. And the vote is all in favor,
Aye.
all against.
I know you're clear opinion, so.
I think this is probably a good first effort.
And what I can do is, as reminders, we can include this as a reminder in the packets that
I
we
think
send to
they
the
should.
poll workers.
I think they should.
And
But I think, you might want to consider changing the sentences where, like, I will carry out, I will provide, I will not express, to a more generic, a poll worker should not.
These are the guidelines.
sure, and like I said, this was just kind of like something to look at, and really my reminder is, please don't talk about politics in the
Agreed.
polling location.
Square.
We do email out all of the poll workers as kind of like a reminder, like, hey, these are election dates, and we send out an email to every single poll worker. I can include
Mhm.
these in there, as goals and, the reminders and the emails that I send to the poll workers. Me just placing on this was a way I knew they would see it.
Yeah.
Was not, other, just as a reminder, because a lot of times they don't see the supervisor reminders.
Right.
Because the supervisor has a big list of reminders, hey, these are the things that we need to do,
Yeah.
that poll workers, the actual poll workers don't see, but they do sign a pay sheet.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of my thinking behind it.
I'll publicly apologize for yelling in the meeting and raising my voice at you.
Well, thank you. Apology accepted. No harm, no foul, no, we're all good.
We're on the same thing.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, let's work on it. And,
I just,
this, like I say, I think this is a good first effort. I think we can improve on it and make it where it isn't objectionable. Okay, other business, you've also got this sheet.
that was how I came to the dollar.
Oh,
amount
okay,
That I needed, how I
Gotcha.
came up with how many ballots we needed,
okay,
how many stylists we needed, and then just kind of so you can kind of see how much voting equipment and how we
okay.
kind of generally what I might expect at each of the sites. The only other thing I have, if you'll notice the meeting dates, August the 12th would be a new meeting date for us. That would be for us to finalize, or pick the 3 finalists for the I voted sticker contest, but also for the election commission to be able to approve our 2025 budget.
Oh, already,
Yeah.
wow.
Monday, what time?
I think I may have a conflict. Is there any way you could do, I think I'm out that week, actually. Is there any way you could do the Friday before, Thursday before, sometime after, Friday before? Does
yes,
The 9th,
that work for you guys? Or even later in the day on Thursday?
August the 9th,
Yes.
okay.
let's,
If
it's
that
Friday
works.
afternoon or
Yeah.
Friday morning. I'd rather do Friday.
Either one.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock? Okay, that's,
And then the dates I have on there, August the 7th, I've been asked to speak at the League of Women Voters to talk about voting. That October the 4th, that's a class that works through the University of Arkansas about voting that I'll hold over at the sheriff's office as well.
Cool. You've
okay,
done that one a few times.
I have, yeah, so it's pretty good attendance, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
all right, so our next meeting is August the 9th at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Are we good? Any other things you want to highlight on the upcoming dates?
So I think that's it.
And the ballot drop, the only other one, right?
The August the
23rd,
23rd.
yeah.
If there is no other business, we are adjourned.